Hi, pretty little lifters. Today we are going to be chatting with our guest, Madeline Mosier Timm. I met Maddie at Brick Los Angeles, and she was one of my first CrossFit coaches. I remember when I first met her, I walked into the gym to kind of preview it, and I was like, who is this beautiful, strong, confident woman? She was doing muscle ups and handstand push ups, and I was just in awe because I'd never seen anybody do that before, and let alone a woman do any of these movements before. She is a former competitive CrossFit athlete and currently a women's fitness coach that supports women at every age in their fitness. She is also a wife, a mama of 3 adorable children. And in this episode, we are going to chat about fitness pre-pregnancy, during pregnancy, and postpartum. And we are also going to chat about the pressure on moms and bounce back culture to get that pre-baby body back. And we're going to chat about the importance of fitness for women at every age. Let's get into it. Welcome to the podcast, Maddie.
Thank you so much, Tiffany. I'm so happy to be talking to you and talking about all the stuff that I know you and I both love. So,
by the way, I love that we're kind of wearing PLL colors because you were wearing like the kind of yellowish green that I use for my colors. So I was like, we are on brand. I love this. So cute.
Like, let me get into some fitness looking gear.
For our listeners, Maddie and I met at Brick Los Angeles, and I was mentioning in the intro that Maddie was one of my first CrossFit coaches. Like, she saw me in my infancy of CrossFit, little baby Tiffany, learning how to do Olympic lifting. She was helping me with my form, keeping me on point.
That takes me back to, the good old days, like our glory days of CrossFit.
Yes.
And definitely remember you walking into the gym the first few times, for sure.
Yeah. So I was sharing in the intro that, and I don't know if you remember this. I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I came to Brick to do like a little, like somebody had told me, oh, check out this gym. So before I signed up, I was like, let me just go like visit and see what it's like. And I happened to walk in and I think it was you and Lauren. I think you guys were all prepping for like open training or regionals. And I walk in and all of you badass women were doing ring muscle ups. You were doing handstand push-ups. And I was like, what is this? Like, what is happening? First of all, what are these movements? I don't know what they are. And second of all, who are all these amazing women doing this stuff in front of my eyes? And that literally is why I signed up. Like, I saw it all happening. I was like, I want to be able to do this. Like, sign me up. So I would love to know, like, how did you get into fitness and coaching? Like, have you always been active your whole life? Like, until like, I know the first thing I got to see you do, but like, what is your kind of background with this?
Sure. So, I was always an athlete growing up, was involved in sports from a very young age, played sports, multiple sports in high school. And then once I got to college, I didn't play any collegiate sports, but I just played intramural sports for fun. And during that time, I also, I'd go to the rec center on campus and work out kind of. And I had like a membership at 24-Hour Fitness because it was close to my house that I lived in off campus. But never really had an idea of what I was doing in the gym. I played sports, but I never worked out in a gym setting. While I was playing those sports. So it was a very different feeling, and really didn't know what I was doing when I was there, even having played sports all my life. So it was after college that my brother called me one day and he was like, hey, I tried this thing called CrossFit. It was awesome. And he was a collegiate athlete. He ran at Stanford. And I knew if he was calling to tell me that this workout was great, that it had to have been really good. So he was highly involved in CrossFit, got me involved, and I joined a gym here in Texas before I moved to Los Angeles, and I fell in love immediately. It was just like, wow, this is awesome. It's hard. It's fun. I love the community. And so that was my first taste of CrossFit. And then it was when I moved to Los Angeles in 2010. that I continued my CrossFit journey and met a whole new group of people. And not only did I want to be a member at Brick, but I wanted to be coaching. I knew that there was something calling me, and decided to make it my life. And it was in 2011 that I was certified as a CrossFit coach, and I've been coaching ever since.
I love that. And, obviously, our listeners, unless you know us and you've been to the gym, you were lucky if you got coached by Maddie. You were just, and this is the thing, like I, am a coach now and I coach kids, and I've learned from so many coaches, that I encounter. And one thing that I loved about you
Totally.
is like, you were really big on technique. And I was like, yes. Yes. And you were always
Yeah.
giving like cues and like different cues sometimes. And to me, that was very helpful. And I think that's kind of like what set where we were training apart was the coaches were very, very big on technique. And that's what I try to tell people. Like, if you are going somewhere new and like you don't know a lot of technique, like find you a coach who does, even if you have to work with a personal trainer for a little bit so you can get your movement on point.
Totally, totally. And, working with, specifically now I work entirely with women, and many women who I work with are in their older stages of life and have never worked out in their life. So being able to articulate a movement with words and be able to give cues or different kinds of cues to the individual, because you never know what's going to stick with someone. And so being able to describe
Yes.
a movement in different ways is really, really important, especially like you said, if someone has never engaged in fitness before. So that is one of the hardest things of coaching, but also one of the most important things that I feel like if you are a fitness coach, it's something to uh, take your time with and to understand, and just understand how to articulate movement with words.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and it's interesting because I feel like when I started working with kids and teens, that's when I became a better coach because I had so many new minds, and I was like, I have to be able to modify for you and like give you this cue, but this cue isn't working for this kid, so now I gotta give them a different. Like I had to be on my feet, and like you also are training all age ranges and kids too, so it's like it really does make you like, ooh, I gotta have like a toolbox of like all this language that I can share.
Yeah, definitely. And sometimes it's a matter of like switching from one toolbox to another toolbox, right? Like you kind of have your cues that might work for kids, which is, like jumping on the box might be like jumping onto a box might be a different set of words that you use as opposed to like an older adult who, is might be jumping to a little bit lower or, whatever. But I get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It can be challenging, but it's also, it's part of our job. It's what we do.
When you started CrossFit, because obviously you started before me, you were in the like kind of beginning stages of like when this sport was kind of coming up. Also,
Yeah.
we, are fairly around the same, like we're both millennials. And we both kind of grew up around that time where it's like everything was about being skinny and petite. And I know you also, do and we're doing fitness modeling around that time too. What kind of like pressures did you feel from either people saying like, oh my gosh, be careful with lifting, you're going to get too bulky? Or did you feel pressure on yourself to be like, I need to stay small because that was still kind of the culture that we were dealing with? Like, did you experience any of that?
Yeah, definitely. Especially as, going from a teenager who, I was obsessed with Vogue magazine, would flip through that magazine weekly and was seeing all different types of models to, watching the Victoria's Secret fashion show every December and just being like obsessed with these beautiful women and like their bodies. And so there was like something, these images that were totally ingrained in how I should look. And then once I found CrossFit and I understood what my body was potentially capable of, there was a little bit of a shift that I feel like happened mentally and emotionally that I kind of didn't really care so much about being skinny and a certain size particularly anymore, but I became more focused on my goals of being strong and seeing what my body was capable of. And I definitely remember that shift happening because I didn't find myself buying Vogue magazine as much anymore. Maybe I had, gotten a little bit older and I was looking at myself in a different way. And I was really proud of my body. And not just because, like, sure, there was like aesthetic parts that came with it, but my body also didn't look like the models in those magazines, right? Like, my body looked strong. And I was okay with that. And maybe it was because I was also around other people who appreciated what it meant to be strong, and supported that. And I think that was what was really, really helpful, was just like, we're strong and we love being strong and we love seeing what our body's capable of. But yeah, I think that's kind of how it shifted. It's funny, I've never like really thought about it, but now that you're asking this question, it's like, yeah, it's really emotional to look back and see like what I was confronted with, what we as women or
Yeah.
young teens were confronted with, and into what, into a basically a 180, and not being so focused on what my body looks like, but more so what it's capable of. Like, yes, like I said, there were aesthetic
Yeah.
moments and like concentrating on the aesthetics that I appreciated. But again, it wasn't the same aesthetics that I would see in the magazines.
You pointed something out that it's funny because I never really thought about it until you said it, but I feel the same way. You said that you noticed you stopped buying like Vogue magazine and kind of like maybe comparing yourself a little bit. And I was like, I kind of did that too, because I was the same thing, religiously watching the Victoria's Secret fashion show. Like, that was my body goals. Like, I remember thinking, and then also I was like, Tiffany, you're like 5'5", like relax, like, but that was like what I had in mind, right? I'm like, this is the body I want. And then when I started really lifting, like, without even consciously thinking about it, like, I stopped thinking about that stuff. And and I think what you brought up a really good point. You said the word community. And I think when you are around like-minded people who also are like, none of them were trying to be super skinny. It's like we were around this healthy community of people who like wanted to get strong, wanted to be fit, wanted to see what they could do, wanted to eat healthy, still wanted to have fun. And that's why I feel like community is so important, because I wasn't around that. And it would be interesting because I remember sometimes when I would pop into non-CrossFit type spaces, that's when those feelings would sometimes come back, because the population that was in those classes were like really petite women and they wanted to just be tiny and shrink themselves. So then that's when I started to question myself, like, wait a minute, am I too big right now? Like, should I? And I would snap back out of it and I'd be like, no, I'm in a different space. Like, I'm in a different community,
Totally. Yeah. And I think just having those friendships and those teammates and those classmates and those coaches, it really changed my ideals of beauty standards. And it just really shifted my heart, in the way that I looked at myself and other women. And like when we would go to CrossFit competitions and it wasn't like you were looking at someone's body. You were looking at, oh my gosh, look what they're doing. This is incredible.
Yes.
This is amazing. And that's what all of this, I think that's why I fell in love with fitness, was because it became something bigger, and it became, and CrossFit, and, specifically, it became something bigger, and all of these things that I didn't even realize. So like now that we're talking about it and like looking back in hindsight, and just how beneficial it all really was.
And you're so right. It's like, instead of like us focusing on how much we weighed, the number on the scale, which we now know is not that important, but like, instead of focusing on stuff like that, we were focusing on like, how much can we snatch? Like, what's our deadlift?
Yeah, those numbers became like way more important than anything on the scale.
Yeah, and that's what was so cool about it. Like focusing more on like I want to make sure I'm eating enough so that I can lift more weight and like feel good and be strong, instead of the reverse, which is what a lot of
Yeah,
probably our non-fitness peers were still dealing with. Yeah.
definitely.
Um I remember during like a lot of like peak fitness times at Brick, like I think it was like during regionals or like the open, you had some
Mhm.
exciting news pop up that you were going to become a mama to your first adorable baby boy. And you were
Yep.
pretty much like the first one in the gym, like, of the coaches, and like to really, for me to see like a pregnant person doing CrossFit and like seeing this fitness journey. Like I remember kind of growing up and just hearing like once women got pregnant, they just stopped everything. Like that's kind of like what I was used to. So like for all of us, this was brand new. Like for so many of us, we were like, what happens? Do you keep working out? Do you not? Like what happens? Um, and I just imagine as someone who was like fitness modeling and doing, competitive fitness, what was that process like for you, especially during a time where like there wasn't a lot of support? You were kind of like part of that trailblazing group of women who were like pregnant and fit and learning how to navigate this.
Yeah, I mean that I look back on that time all the time. Um, it was in 2014 that I found out I was pregnant, and it was right after regionals and the games. And then it was shortly after we found out we were expecting. And it was such a change for me. At first, I was like, okay, I'm scared to work out. And from coming from someone who has, was competitively crossfitting, that felt very odd because there was no information about fitness and
Mm-hmm.
pregnancy. And it was just, I was like, let me try and make it through my first trimester and see how I feel. And then, there was a lot of also images and videos popping up of women who wanted to have quote unquote fit pregnancies, and they were doing all the things. And I was like, well, they're doing it. I mean, I guess I can do all the things too. And so I was no longer, I guess, like after I kind of crossed that threshold of the first trimester and I was seeing other women doing all the things and having these fit pregnancies, I was like, well, I guess I can do it too. So I just started doing all the things and never, I didn't, just that beginning of my pregnancy, I had slowed down. But after that, I ramped it up and I was training really hard. And I was like, yeah, well, just because I'm pregnant doesn't mean I can't do it. Um, but at the time, no one was taking into consideration pelvic floor health, core health, and what that means in relation to fitness and pregnancy. And so there was just like, it was just kind of a free for all. And a lot of the
Yeah.
other women I was seeing and working out with, or seeing on, sorry, seeing on like Instagram and stuff, they were still deadlifting heavy and cleaning heavy and snatching heavy. And so I was totally influenced by that and wanted to have that fit pregnancy too. And so continue to work out throughout my pregnancy. I mean, I was doing muscle ups like into 5 months until I was like 5 months pregnant or something like that. And I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh. Um, but but uh, worked out really hard and then returned to fitness very soon after having Jackson as well. Because again, there was no discussion of maintaining and considering your core and pelvic health. It was just about being fit during pregnancy, and it was all about what I can do and showing that off, and as opposed to thinking, well, what should I be doing, and taking all of that into consideration. So but that was back in 2014, and 9 years later, the pendulum has definitely swung the other way, and I am seeing a lot. There's definitely so much more conversation and consideration for core and pelvic floor health, which I am so thankful for now. Um, and that has also shifted um, how I approach fitness for my clients and for all of the women that I coach. And um, in some ways, that pendulum swinging is a good thing, and in some ways, it's not a good thing, because with that pendulum swing, because there also comes a lot more fear, um, and fear of
Mm.
things like diastasis recti, which is actually just an adaptation of our body to accommodate the growing baby. And while it is a separation of the abdominal muscles down the linea alba, that down the middle of those six-pack abs, it's it's a necessary adaptation of our body. But a lot of influencers that I see on Instagram use it as a fear-mongering tactic, and they're like, you
Mhm.
have to close the gap after pregnancy, and it has become all about closing the gap of your abdomen. And really, it's not about closing the gap. There's so much more nuance to it. And so many of the clients that I get come and talk to me, and they're like, well, I still have, this much of a gap and it needs to be closed all the way. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Like, let's talk about it. And what was your baseline before pregnancy? Did you already have a small separation? And that's because that's just what's natural to your
Mm.
body. So there's all these things to
Yeah.
consider. And it's not just about closing the gap. How is the integrity of that connective tissue that runs down the middle of your abdomen? Is it strong? Is it healthy? Can we do some more strengthening for it? So there's just a lot more nuance to things now. So with that pendulum swing, again, there's a lot of great things that are talked about now that weren't talked about back when I was pregnant. However, we have to take it with moderation and consider all the nuance around it too.
I love your openness about this because I think it'd be really easy to just say, like, oh, yeah, I had a fit pregnancy, all was well, I look fabulous after. But like you being able to be self aware and being like, you know what? I would have changed a couple things. Like I would have done some things differently. But like you said,
Totally.
like there wasn't information out there because doctors were just saying walk to pregnant women, like walk or don't do anything you didn't do before. Like there was just not a lot of information. And I think you were the first person that I knew that mentioned like pelvic floor. I never heard that before. Like it wasn't until you started talking about it. I was like, pelvic floor, like what is this? And I remember you hosted a seminar about like pregnancy and how to coach your athletes, and I attended it and it was awesome, and it was like my first time learning about this stuff. And then you're so right though, then you kind of started seeing more people talk about it, which was great. But then you kind of nailed it when you were like, then there was the whole fear mongering thing. I remember so many people like talking to me about like my ab separation, oh my goodness, and I was like, I'm pretty sure that's can happen and that's okay, but they were treating it like it was like like almost like not a disease, but like, do you know what I mean? Like there's something,
Yeah.
and I was like, no, like, because people were just like focusing on that because it became a selling point for people. You know what I mean? Like, buy this program to close your ab separation, or if you have this, buy this.
Yeah.
And like, so I've been, fortunate that like you are somebody that, I trust with this information. And I've like, this is not my area of expertise. And so I will just send people to your page. I'm like, go look at her page. Like, because I know it's going to be like honest and you're not trying to sell something in terms of like false promises or like make it a fear thing. But yeah, it's very interesting how kind of like mom fitness culture has evolved. And yeah, let's chat about that a little bit because I am not a mother. But let me tell you, I still feel some type of way as a person who has lots of mother friends when I see people with like posting about bounce back culture and get your pre-baby body back. How soon can I work out after? Oh my gosh, it's been a year. I'm still this heavy and I need to and I was like, I'm exhausted for you all. Like you all just had an amazing tiny human born. Like, and it just like hurts my heart that like this is the pressure that is put on women. So what are
Yeah.
your thoughts about that as someone who has been through it and also works with postpartum women?
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard to, go on social media and you see so many beautiful women, beautiful people who have given birth, and all of a sudden they look like they look like there was never
Mm-hmm.
a baby in there. And
Yeah.
you're like, how is this possible? And you know what? For some people, it is, like that's just how their body
Mm-hmm.
responded post pregnancy. And then for some people it's not. And I always say I did not bounce back from pregnancy. I don't like that term
Mm-hmm.
anyway, but I never say that I bounced back. My first pregnancy, I did jump back into fitness way too quickly, but I was experiencing pelvic health issues that I didn't tell anybody about. And because I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
that there was anything I could do about it at that time, no one was talking about pelvic floor health, like I said. And
Yeah.
I was quietly and silently like suffering. And even though like maybe my body looked a certain way and I was really hell bent on getting back to the competition floor, I wanted to get my, my numbers back as far as, all of my lifts. I wanted my gymnastics to come back quickly. And I didn't take that time to heal. Um, so I learned, from my first time around, I learned and I did better my second and my third times going through pregnancy. And as I think back on it, and unfortunately I didn't take my time with that first pregnancy, and I didn't allow my body to heal, but it was going through that set me up to help other people in the future, because I understand what it's like to experience pelvic health symptoms and be like, what do I do about this? Like, do I have to live with this for the rest of my
Yeah.
life, or is there something that I can do about it? So experiencing that, as hard as it was at that time, it made me a better coach. It made me, and it really just shaped the way that I coach too, because I am sensitive to these things. I am sensitive to my athletes who experience pelvic health issues, leaking, incontinence, pressure, pelvic organ prolapse. I understand. And I understand how
Mm-hmm.
frustrating it can be. And it's really, really changed the way that I coach.
Yeah. And I like that you pointed out that like we need to remember all of our bodies are different. So somebody's pregnancy
Mhm.
experience and what their body looks like after they've had a baby like is not your story. It's not your journey. Like everyone's different. And for
Yeah.
anybody listening that is currently dealing with any negative thoughts and emotions about this, like if you have to unfollow people, if you need to, like on social media, like whatever you need to do to take care of yourself, right? But I just imagine like I also like some friends that I've talked to that have had kids. One of the things that they tell me is like there is this moment, and I don't know if you've experienced this or not, where after they've had the baby, even just like looking at themselves in the mirror, they're like, who is that? Or like, I'm a different person now, and learning to like love and accept that person. Like, I don't know. And I think that there does have to be a lot of like self-love with that. Like, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like I'm still learning to appreciate the different body that I'm in now. Or say it's the same body,
Yeah.
just different things about it. Um,
Yeah.
and I've, like I said, I have 3 kids, and it learning to self-love doesn't get any easier, right? Especially when you look in the mirror and things are different. You see more stretch marks, you see skin that's a little bit looser now, and you're just like, okay, I love and appreciate my body so much for what it's done, not only in fitness, but bringing, my kids into the world. And I love my body so much, but it's still hard to like sometimes see things that you're like, okay, let me get used to this. I'm
Yeah.
still getting used to it. And it's a journey. It really is. So don't, for anyone who is experiencing that same thing, like don't put a timeline on yourself. Don't, when it comes to healing after pregnancy, because I have a lot of clients that are like, I want to look this way by this time. And I'm still feeling that separation. And I'm like, well, healing takes time. For some people, yes, it is fast. And that's just genetically, they're built a little bit differently. Maybe their baby was, you know, like placement in your body, in your abdomen. There's so many different things that can influence how our body responds to pregnancy, like the size of the baby, for example. And we have to just take our time. Like self-love takes time, and it takes just every day giving yourself a little bit of love, and every day just telling yourself that you appreciate your body, that it has done miraculous things. And as hard as it can be to see something different in the mirror, just continue to work on those moments of self-love, because it does get better and it does get easier, and things will just continue to change. I mean, life changes, we get older, we look back at with more appreciation on things that we didn't appreciate so much as when we were younger. So yeah, it takes time. It really does. But and I feel like even still, like I might never get to the place to be like, I love my body. But I'm getting there.
You said something that I think is so powerful, and it's just like light bulb in my head right now. But you said it's not a different body. It's still your body. It's like, this is your same body. It's just like a little different. Like, but like just hearing the words different, like, you know, because I think we have been conditioned to, like, as we age, like as we kind of go through seasons of life, or like my body's different. Like I probably said that so many times. I probably am currently saying it. I just turned 40, and all of a sudden I'm noticing different things, and I'm like, whose body is this? This isn't mine. Like what is this? And I think just hearing you say, like, no, this is our body. It's just like a little different, but not a different body, because it's still ours. And just like hearing that just sat differently with me as somebody who has been going through that. And for anybody listening that doesn't have children, and maybe, you know, I think sometimes we go through these little moments too as we age, you know? And so there's that other component too, where it's like, maybe you don't have kids, but like your body's changing because you're aging, and you've just been used to this one body that you look at in the mirror, or, you know, you see, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, this is different. Like, what's happening here? But like, I like that. It's like, it's still me, just a little different, but it's still me.
Yeah, totally. And, you know, as women too, we also experience so many different seasons of life. And it's really important for us to be open to those seasons and be open to aging. Aging is okay. Like, it's okay for us to get older. But we still want to, I know we still want to feel young. And I feel like that's really where fitness does something for us that nothing else can. There's no medicine in the world. There's no, you know, drug in the world that's going to make us feel the way that fitness can make us feel, especially as our body does change as we get older, and we enter into these different seasons of life, and our hormones shift and our hormones change. And that's a really big, that's always really big, as we enter, you know, each season, and things change for us. And it's okay. It's okay for us to accept these seasons, and it's okay for us to accept where we are. And I feel like we're so bombarded with wanting to, you know, always look like, have our body look a certain way, but things aren't, it's just not the way that it is. And I really hope that we can get to a place where we are more accepting of seeing things change, but also working to maintain our strength and maintain being an independent, functional human that can take care of ourselves.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. So as we're kind of talking about like fitness and like, you know, you training through pregnancy and stuff, it got me thinking about athlete's brain. And maybe some people have never heard that phrase or thought about it, but it's kind of when you're just in that go mode, performance mode, like top tier, like fitness, I can do it all mode. And I think it does serve us during performance, but I think it can present like some challenges and lead to like overtraining, injuries, pushing yourself more than you should at the moment. I know I've done it before where like something was bothering in my arm, but I had a competition and I had to do all these pull-ups and I'm like, nope, we're going to do it. We got a mission. Like, let's go, let's go. And then afterwards my arm was throbbing and I'm just like, okay. So I think sometimes like we do have to turn off that athlete's brain a little bit where it's like I've been dealing with a back injury and I know I can clean, like physically I can clean a barbell. Should I be doing it? Like, maybe no. So like what,
Yeah.
and I think that can relate to athletes who are pregnant or postpartum as well. You're like, wait, I can do this. Like I physically can do it. I just had a baby, but I can do this. Like what like tips do you have or thoughts on athlete's brain and how people can navigate that?
So I think it's always about, especially during pregnancy and returning to fitness postpartum, it's not about what I can do, but it's always questioning what I should do, right? So we always can think like, oh, I know my numbers. I know, like you said, I know I can clean that barbell, done it a million times, but should I be doing this right now? So it's always just having that checkpoint moment when we are experiencing an injury or maybe during pregnancy. And I'm not saying stop doing everything completely, right? But having that checkpoint moment and being, okay, I can do this, but should I do this right now? Or should I change the way that I'm doing it right now? Maybe
Yeah.
I still do it. Maybe I can use less weight, or maybe I can use a different piece of equipment to perform a similar stimulus. But I can do that without injuring myself. So always just considering your ego, because athlete's brain is all about ego and
Yes.
making sure
Ego.
that, yeah. And ego can be a really great thing, but it can also be, detrimental when it comes to, like you said, athlete brain. And I have so many athletes too, and I've coached a lot of athletes that want to work through and train through injury when it's like, well, wait a minute, let's consider our long-term athleticism. I want you to be an athlete for the rest of your life. So just because
Yes.
that barbell right now with an injury, I'm not going to let you do that, because I want you to be cleaning that barbell not only once you're healed from this injury, but 40 years from now. So
Yeah.
rather than, listening to your ego, listening to that athlete brain and picking up the barbell, we're going to do it this way, or we're going to modify this way for now. Or we're going to take some of that weight off. We're going to try that. We're going to see how that feels. So just tapping into, like I said, that checkpoint moment of, okay, I know I can do this, but should I? Or how should I do this?
Yeah.
And asking yourself those
Yeah.
questions, I feel is really important.
No, this is great. And you nailed it with the word checkpoint, because that's literally what I have to do with myself now. Like even the other day I was doing some movement and I grabbed a dumbbell and I was like, nah, like a 50-pound dumbbell, like we should be doing 30, like until we're a little bit better. And it was just like that checkpoint moment where I was like, I know you can do it. I know you want to. And that feels really good for your ego because it feels good to be strong and but maybe like we go grab another one right now. So I think that checkpoint is just so important. And I think, I'm really big on like leaving your ego at the door, and it's so hard for people. It's really challenging for people, but like, you're so right. It's like if we can just like put our ego aside and just kind of just start looking at things like, okay, this is where I am. What should I be doing? Like realistically, what is best for me at this moment? And then, doing the thing. But
it's always about meeting your body where it is today. Because where your body is today is different from where it was last year. It's different from where it was last week or yesterday. So continually work to meet your body where it is. Whether that's in pregnancy, postpartum, menopause, postmenopause, or maybe you're just experiencing an injury, meet your body where it is every day.
So you recently started a new program, a fitness program for postmenopausal women. And I love this. And I love that I'm starting to see more people in the fitness space do this because I think it's so important. I feel like people, like, especially in that age range, like once they got to a certain age, it was just like, oh, we don't do fitness anymore. And it was just like a drop off. It's like, I almost felt like fitness was like ages 20 to like 40 something. And then after that, people just, no, it's not really a part of their lives. So what inspired you to do that? And maybe you can talk a little bit more about like the importance of getting this age group fit and thinking like you're not past your fitness days, like this is still for you.
Absolutely. So, being a pregnant athlete, in 2014 and not having any support, um, and feeling very underserved, I realized that there are other demographics that are also underserved. And that was really specifically looking at our older adults. And
Mm-hmm.
I just feel that they are not given the time, the motivation, the encouragement to train. And I was like, I got to do something about this. And it had been sitting with me for about a year before I was like, okay, I'm just going to go. I'm just going to put it out there. I'm going to start a class. And it's been really great. It's been really fun. And to see women come together and work out, some of whom have never worked out a day in their life, and never encouraged to work out, seeing that change and seeing how it can benefit them, and them seeing for themselves, wow, fitness really does make a difference in my life. It's one of my most favorite classes that I've ever coached. And
Yeah.
it's really fulfilling. And it is so important for us to encourage the older adults in our life to work out. You can literally put years on people's life simply by encouraging them to work out and making sure that they do, because there's people in our lives that are already of a certain age, and if you can encourage them to work out, they're going to be here for a lot longer.
You're so right. Like it, and you know what? Like, I think it's really important for people in our generation to talk about this a little bit more. Like, our parents are getting older, and it's a weird
Mhm.
place to be. Like, it's weird to think, like, yeah, we're
Yeah.
getting older. And then you have a moment where you see your parents and you're like, our parents are getting older. And you're like, I need them around for as long as I can have them. This is a selfish request. But it's also like, because we are in fitness, like, we know all the benefits, and we want them to be able to be able-bodied, moving around their home independently, being able to go up and down stairs, play with their grandkids, right?
Yeah.
And I think it is really hard to like change mindset sometimes. But I think if like what you're doing is so good, like these women that are coming together, and now they have a social thing too, right? Like now they're like meeting new people and like have something to look forward to, and it's a healthy thing. And I think if you're a millennial, a Gen X listening to this, like, and you have older people in your life, like this is something to think about. Like, how are we instilling these health and fitness values into our older population, to our parents, our families?
Yes, absolutely. And it's hard too, because I feel like that demographic, of older adults, anywhere from like even 60 plus, fitness and working out was never a part of, like, for many of them, never really a part of their life. So they're like, why would I do this?
Mm-hmm.
And so it is hard. I have to say,
Yeah.
it is hard convincing that generation, and that demographic, that it is important, because so many people are like, well, why
Yeah.
do I need this? And they don't understand the benefits. And so I'd say, like, one of the hardest things in coaching that population is just getting them through the door, because they don't quite
Yeah.
understand. And there's definitely like an education moment that has to happen. And it's once they see it for themselves. Like, one of my clients, she went on a vacation this summer. We'd been working together for probably like 4 months at that time. And she was like, oh my gosh, like, there was this one tour we did where we had to climb all these stairs and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, never before would I have been able to do that. And I was like, there you go.
Yes,
That
yes, this is what it's about. This is literally what it's about. Like at this point,
you want to
you're
be able
on
to
vacay,
travel.
you want to do fun things.
Yes, you want to be able to like live your life and, you know, experience retirement and go travel the world. Well, in order to travel the world, you have to be able to move your body. So, you know, when you're not traveling the world, making sure that you're working on your fitness. And another client, you know, like last year, she did her heart stress test. And after like 4 or 5 months of working together, she was like, oh my gosh, I did better this year. And, you know, just seeing these changes and being able to move through their daily life with more confidence, it's game changing and it's life changing.
Yeah.
And, you know, I know for us, we understand that fitness it's a non-negotiable in our life. It's something we have to do. But unfortunately, like there's just still so many people who don't quite understand that.
I was looking up some stats the other day for like my health class that I teach to my students. And I came across a statistic from like, I think it was 2020, that only 28% of Americans strength train. I think it's at least like 3 days a week and do some type of like aerobic capacity item 5 days a week. And I was like 28%. Yeah. And I'm sure like, I wish they would have broken it down by age. Like I might've had to dig in a little bit more, but it's probably that 20 to 40 range, you know what I mean? Or like that 25 to 45 range. That's making up most of that. And of course, by areas too, but it is just so interesting. And I'm glad that you and other people who are, you know, teaching more of this. Cause like, I think about it, like I live in West Hollywood, you've lived here too before, and it is a very young community. So like, I'm used to seeing certain age ranges here. Like when I go to the gym, like there's a certain age range. And I think about like, where are like the older, maybe 60 plus people that work out? Like, where do they go? You know, like, you know, it's clearly not here. But one thing that I did love where, you know, we both did CrossFit was we saw more age ranges and you did see like 50 plus people doing this. And that was the first time I was like, this is so cool. Like somebody like in their 50s plus, like doing this, like lifting barbells. That was the first time I saw it.
Yeah. And it's so powerful too, when you put a barbell in someone's hands for the first time. And at first they're like, you know, I remember feeling that way too. It'd be like, oh my God, what do I do with this? Like, how do I move this thing? But, you know, now it is so cool to see the women in my class go, they grab their barbell and they know what to do with it. And it's just, it's really, really cool. And it's super fulfilling for me as a coach. And hopeful too that many more people will see what these older adults are doing and realize that it is powerful and that is necessary, because it is.
Yeah,
I mean, there's so many
100%.
things that fitness. Yeah, there's so many things that fitness combats that I didn't even realize. Like it can even help improve or even reverse stages of dementia and Alzheimer's. And it's just like, wow, like we need to be putting all these pieces of the puzzle together and not only, you know, changing the way that we eat, but the way that we move our body, making sure that we're moving our body more, integrating weight training. I mean, you know, all the things.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's kind of like, I always think of like fitness as like, and granted, like, yes, I know gyms cost money, but in terms of like almost like free healthcare for yourself, like this is what you can do. You know, this is your free preventative healthcare. Like, get it in, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And there's no greater investment than investing in your health, right? Like like other things can wait, but if you're not investing in your health, then you're not going to be here to enjoy the other things. So
yeah,
all we can do, I feel like, you know, spreading the word and encouraging all the adults, older adults in our life to seek out fitness, even if it's, you know, starting with walking, right? Like that walking can be so beneficial. I definitely feel like that's not the only thing that we should be doing, but at least it's a good place to start.
Yeah, no, I know. I love that walking is getting a comeback right now. And I'm like, yes, like I
Yeah,
remember growing up, my mom wanted to walk all the time and she would like,
yeah,
let's
mine too.
go. And we'd like, yeah, it was like the thing back then when we were growing up. So like when my brother had soccer practice or something, we'd go to the track and we would just like walk, 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 walk. And then it was like, oh, walking, that doesn't do anything. There was like a period where like nobody wanted to walk. And then now like it's like walking is having its comeback era and I'm here for it. I'm like, yes, because especially because I prefer walking to running.
Yeah. Yeah, even my husband, I mean, Joe gets out with the dogs and walks them every morning, and he's like, it's this new thing for him. And I'm like, yes, let's get your steps in. I love it.
I
Yeah,
love it.
it's
I,
definitely you're right. It's having a comeback moment, and I like it. I like it. Well, even for like older adults,
yep.
beginning walking is super important. Any sort of impact training is important. And that's one thing that we do a lot of in my class, and that they do on their active rest days is a good amount of walking. And beyond that, they're also learning how to jump, which so many older athletes or older people are like, jump. Why would I jump? I'm going to hurt myself. Well, we don't start with jumping. We start with like lifting, like and holding on to something, and then we progress from there. But understanding that we need impact training in our lives, and walking is
Yeah.
definitely a version of that.
Yeah, no, I love that. You've also been on the local news with some of your clients, and I think this is so cool. And I think it's such a great way to spread the word about this because I think, you know, being in a vacuum and like you're doing all this amazing work, but I'm like, yes, get on that news, like show people like what is possible so that other women could see, like, oh my gosh, like look at her doing this thing, like that could be me. I love that.
Yeah, it is. I'm so thankful for Great JSA here in San Antonio. They have been super supportive and always willing to, showcase, my athletes and things, and, just to spread the word, like you said. And it's been really beneficial, just for people to see other older adults or pregnant women or pregnant athletes and postpartum athletes, whoever it is on the show. And I'm really grateful for the host, Roma, who invited me on in the first place. And then just really thankful for that show, for just being open and giving me a platform.
Yeah, no, I think that's awesome. And I think it's such a great way for local communities to spread health and wellness like in their space. So I love that.
Yeah.
Speaking of like health and wellness, how has your fitness shifted? We talked about your CrossFit competitive era. How has it shifted now? Like if for those of you watching this on YouTube or Spotify, Maddie has her gym in the background. She has this awesome home gym in the garage. It's so awesome. But like, how has your fitness changed? Like, what is it like now?
So it definitely looks different than it did, 10 years ago when I was heavy into CrossFit. CrossFit definitely influences the way that I work out. Still all about strength and conditioning training. I'm not lifting quite as heavy as I once was. Um, it's also hard to get my workouts in these days, being a full-time mom and a part-time
Yeah.
fitness coach. It's hard for me to fit it in, but I definitely, if it's 15 minutes, it's 15 minutes. If it's 20 minutes, great. If I get an hour, even better. So sometimes my workouts, they don't get to be as long as I would like them to be, but still getting them in nonetheless. But that means that with more inconsistency right now, it means I'm not lifting quite as heavy as I once was. Still doing some gymnastics, maybe not quite as technical as I was before, but still incorporating them for sure. And just I'm in a place where I'm just enjoying being in the gym as opposed to putting on so much pressure on
Yes.
myself, have to lift or have to hit certain numbers. So I really just, when I come to the gym, I just get to be here, and there's no pressure. I'm not competing anymore. At least not right now. But it just feels good to be in here and to lift the weights and to move my body. And I'm thankful to be able to do that. And yeah, it's a different place, but it's a really good feeling place. Less stress, but still like feeling good and still moving my body in ways that feel good.
I connect with that so much because I'm recovering from an injury right now. So, like, my weight that I can kind of lift is kind of capped, and there's some movements that I can't do, but there's still a
Yeah.
ton that I can do. But it
Mhm.
has been kind of like freeing in a way because there's times where I'll like grab a weight, to do some like goblet squats, and I'm like, meh, let's
Yeah.
go lighter, and it's like, oh, okay, because like Tiffany in the past would have been like, no, stay heavy. You got to make your gains. You got to progress, because we got to keep our
Yeah.
strength up. And now I'm like, no, I'm generally strong, but I'm not in my PR phase right now. Like, I'm not in my like max outfit, like where I need to be the strongest ever. Like, my numbers
Yeah.
are so different, but I'm like so okay with it because guess what? I can still move. And that makes me so happy, and maybe I can't do
Totally.
back squats with my barbell right now, but I can still squat and I can hold a dumbbell. And at least I got that right. And I'm just like, it's definitely been a mindset shift. But I think it was really healthy for me.
Yeah. And, sometimes these resets are a little necessary. Sometimes it's like our body telling us, hold on, like, I still want you to like lift heavy, but let's reset it a little bit and let's make sure that we're tapping into that ego in the right way,
Yes.
and allowing ourselves to still move in ways that feel good, but let's take care of ourselves too. Let's take care of any injuries. I mean, mobility is actually um, more like at the forefront of my workouts now, because I'd like to do what I like to call strength mobility, where
Mm.
it's more like I'm moving my body in ways that increase my mobility, but I'm doing it along with strength training, which, like I said, in coaching older adults who have not worked on mobility, this is something that's new to them. Um, Mobility is, I feel like, goes hand in hand with strength training. And where
Yes.
before it was all like, how heavy can I go? I don't need to like mobilize. I'm fine. But I'm not 24
Mm-hmm.
anymore. I'm 37,
Yeah.
and mobilization and moving my body in a way that strengthens all the connective tissue, and that strengthens all the connective, our ligaments and our tendons. That is so much more important for me now, and it's something that I'm trying to teach my kids, as I coach them too. I mean, they're young, but for them to start learning certain movements that are going to help like strengthen their knees and like help them avoid, tearing ACLs.
Yes.
Like so many of my friends in high school had torn ACLs and, you know, all of that. And, my son is playing basketball now. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to make sure I protect those knees. So many of my older clients have come to
Yes.
me with already existing knee issues, so many knee issues. And, bulletproofing those knees from an early age and really working on our mobility, uh, it's become like the forefront of my workout. So not only am I strength training, but I'm also mobilizing at the same time.
Yeah. No, I think that's so smart. And it's funny because I remember like when I had started CrossFit, I'm like, warm up, whatever. Mobility, whatever. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, get me to the gym a little bit early so I can cat cow and do some like little like, and I was like, oh my gosh, like when did we get here?
So I can cat cow. That's hilarious.
Yeah, and it's funny
But
because I remember when we were training at Brick, like some of our like members that were a little bit older than me, maybe like 10 to 15 years older than me. They're like, just wait till you're like in your 40s. You're going to need to warm up and mobilize. And I'm like, yeah, yeah. And I'm like, oh, they were right.
Yeah. Yep. Especially the knees. I'm telling you, like, if we don't focus on those, like starting, from an earlier age, that develops into so many more problems later on. And I've seen that in my older adults that
Yeah.
I coach. So work on those knees, mobilize, not just cat cow, but mobilize those knees too. It's so important.
Yes, totally, totally. So I love the videos you post when your whole family is doing your family workout. Your kids are there, your parents are there, your husband, your in-laws, and I'm like, look at this healthy family. So can you talk a little bit how like instilling like movement and fitness into your kids' life at an early age is important, and how you do this as a family? Because I don't know of a lot of families that do this. And I think it's so cool that it's become like a family thing. And yeah, would love to hear about that and what advice you would give to parents who want to do that.
It was funny when we were considering moving to Texas from Los Angeles. I remember there was a moment where Joe and I were talking in our kitchen, and I was like, what would be so cool? Because some of my cousins, in Texas had been doing CrossFit or used to do CrossFit. And I was like, babe, like, wouldn't it be really cool if like we started doing like family workouts, like with everybody? Like, I don't know. It was just like a passive conversation that we had. And then I want to say it was like maybe 8 months or so, maybe even less than that, after we had moved to Texas. And we just started inviting everybody over for Sunday workouts. And it's the best. I mean, everybody comes over, we work out, then we hang out. If the guys are watching Sunday football, or, we're planning the next holiday get together. Maybe sometimes we get barbacoa and have tacos afterwards. But it has become one of my favorite days, like ever. Just Sunday, we know we're all getting together. Everybody gets to see each other and catch up. But we also get to work out, and we get to push hard. We get to push each other. Usually we do team workouts, which make it even more fun. And the kids work out before we do. So we put them through a little workout, and then we work out. So, when Jackson was off of school this summer, he's my oldest. Jackson would come in the gym without anybody saying anything to him, without Joe or I, being like, oh, maybe go in the gym. He would just come in the gym, write up his own little workout and do it. And it was just, a matter of him seeing his family do it and starting to understand, like, this is important for me. And now that, he's playing basketball and he's in jujitsu, that he can understand that having a strong body means also being a stronger athlete in his sports. So, it's, we're not pushing him to do it. It's just a matter of him, taking what he's seeing and starting to incorporate it himself. There are some moments where the kids are like, we want to watch a movie. And we're like, well, we got to work out first on Sundays. So the kids do their little workout and then they go play inside while we work out.
Yeah. But I think that's so good. And I work with kids, and they are so watching us, like they're watching us. They're watching what we do. Like, I'm not even their parent, and they're watching, what I'm eating at lunch or what I'm drinking throughout the day. Like, they're looking, and I think it's so cool that it is such a part of your life that it's just like, this is what they're seeing and you're making it a part of them. And I think just being able to surround them with this, it's just like a habit. It's not like a punishment that we have to do. It's like, this is just like what we do. This is like a part of it. And for any
100%.
parents listening, I think like this is such a cool example of like having a family get together, still like it's a get together. You're getting together, you're doing something, you know, healthy for your family who you care about. And then you're hanging out and there's that community aspect, that social aspect. And I think that is so beautiful and it's so inspiring. And hopefully anybody that's listening to this, like, you know, maybe you don't live close to your family, but like your little immediate family can just be like, hey, we're all going for a little hike and then we're going to cook breakfast together. Like whatever it is, just something to like bring it into your life and make it like a regular thing can be so beneficial for your kids and your health as a family. I love that.
Yeah, we just really wanted to create a space for our family to be able to come work out together because we know the benefit of
Yeah.
working or the benefits of working out. And everybody knows every Sunday you're always invited, 10:30 a.m. Let's go.
I love that. Oh my gosh. If I lived close to you, I'd be like, I'm joining the Timm Gym workout, please.
Yes. Yeah, and you know, we don't charge anybody membership.
There you go.
We just come hang out with us. That's all we care about and that's what we love. And like anytime, you know, any other family comes to town, they know Sundays are our workout days.
I love that.
And they know
I love that.
Join it. So it's awesome.
I love that. I love that. So I have one final question for you, and it's the question I ask all of my amazing guests. What advice would you give to your teenage self and teens today?
Ooh. So in regards, because I wanted this answer to be geared towards fitness. And I don't think, you know, it's not like complicated or an overly, I just wanted this answer to be very simple. And as someone who, first of all, was a high school athlete, and like I mentioned in the beginning of our conversation, is that although I was a high school athlete, I never experienced what it was like to work out in a gym. And I feel like that really put me at a disservice going into my 20s and still not understanding fitness. So if you are, first of all, if you are a high school athlete, no matter what sport you play, I highly encourage you to seek out strength and conditioning training in your off season or in supplement to your workouts, because it will make you such a more dynamic and powerful athlete, and it will take you so far. If you want to be playing at the collegiate or professional levels, no matter what sport it is, strength and conditioning training alongside of your sport, it's going to take you farther. So highly recommend and encourage you to do that. There are so many CrossFit gyms, especially during the summertime, that will host like camps for middle schoolers and teenagers. So even if you are not a high school athlete, I still encourage you to seek out fitness. No matter what your passion is, just making fitness a part of your life is going to take you farther. Understanding that having a healthy body it also helps you to have a healthy mind. So seeking out gyms that support younger athletes, because even though you might not be a high school athlete playing a sport, you can still be an athlete, right? So anyone who is actively pursuing athleticism or fitness, you are an athlete. So anybody can be an athlete. You don't have to play basketball or soccer or volleyball to be an athlete. So working to find gyms that will support teenagers, and there are so many of them out there. A lot of them in the CrossFit world also have programs, like I said, specifically during the summertime. They do summertime camps and things like that. So making fitness a part of your life now is going to take you so much farther, not only in your health, but in so many of the other things that you pursue, because understanding that you can push yourself and what it means to push your body can also reverberate in other parts of your life. So get in there and make fitness a part of your life.
I think this is so important. Since I started, teaching PE as, a single subject, it's been really interesting to see, kind of like you were saying, like the athletes usually didn't take PE because they got to do sports. And then I'd see, I'm like, they didn't know how to lift. They were getting injured. Like constantly, I would get like notes about injuries. And I was like, or, students that played sports, like maybe with a club, but then they were still doing PE. And I was constantly getting injury notes, injury notes, injury notes. And I'm like, we need to have something happen. Like you need to be training in the off season. You need to be doing mobility, like you were talking about, like all of these things. And I do hear a lot, and I see a lot of even like fitness professionals now who said they were former athletes or collegiate athletes. A lot of them said like once their sport finished or they were done with their season, they're like, they didn't know what to do. Like, some of them, went through depression because they gained weight when they stopped playing their sport and they didn't know what to do in the gym. And like, there was just like a lot of missing pieces. And I think sometimes, teens forget like, yeah, oh, I think I'm an athlete, but then they just do that one thing and then not keep anything else up to support like the lifestyle habits of like being fit and healthy,
Yes, exactly that. Exactly that. And
Yeah.
I remember like in high school, I went to an all girls school. So we didn't have
Same.
any sort of, so, we didn't have any like weight room or anything like that. But I know that my brothers at the all boys school, they had their gym and like access to, weightlifting racks and pull up racks and all of that stuff. But we didn't have any of that. And
Yeah.
that was really unfortunate. And I can only imagine how much better of a high school athlete I would have been if I would have had strength and conditioning training alongside my sports.
100%. No, I love this. This is great advice. I love it. And also, like, I'm glad you said it because this is also like what I'm trying to teach my students, where I'm like, no, this is for everyone. Like you said, athlete or not, like, all of us can be athletic. All of us can be athletes, even if it doesn't have to be like a specific sport, So yes, let's keep healthy. Let's create good habits in our teen years in terms of fitness and mobility. Like so important.
I just want to say too, really, really quickly too, that I so admire and love like what I have seen you put together in your class and for your teenagers. It is just, I can't imagine how much that would have helped me, feeling confident going into a gym in my 20s and knowing what to do. Like that would have been so helpful for me rather than, being 21 and walking into Anytime or 24-hour fitness, wherever it was I was going, and not having a clue what to do. I was like, I guess I'll go do their cycling class because that's all because I don't know what to do with the weights. And anyway, just want to say amazing and proud and like blown away I am with what you're doing with all the students at your school in PE. I think it's the best.
Oh, thank you so much. It really means a lot. And it's interesting to kind of see like all of our journeys, like where we kind of ended up in this fitness space. And I think it's so cool. I think it's really, really cool. And your kids are so lucky to have you as a mama and have this like great example of like health and fitness and just like support. And yeah, I don't know what PE is like at your kids' school, but like you're a great professional. Maybe you can drop in and be a special guest, like at their and teach some little mini lessons.
You know what? They actually have a really great program where they have PE, but then they have like a separate class. It's called like, I think it's just called movement. And they just work on, I remember
I love this.
They were like, they were like, we did Superman's today. And I was like, really?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yes.
Not more about it, but it's really cool.
Yeah, no, that's great. I love this. I love this. So, Maddie, how can we support you? Where can we direct people who want to learn more about you and what you do?
Oh, sure. Of course, you can follow me on Instagram. I feel like I'm having a little bit of an Instagram. I've been away from Instagram a little bit the past few months. I have a full-time coaching roster, which I'm so thankful for, and being a full-time mom. So Instagram is like not at the top of my priority, but I'm going to get back to it soon. I promise. I want to be posting more and, just giving more content to my followers. But anyway, so look out for it. It's going to be good. Anyway, my Instagram is at Madeline Mosier, and you can also check out my website. It is madelinetimmfitness.com. And yeah, those are the main ways that you can, follow what I'm doing.
Love it. And I will share all of Maddie's, I'll share her socials and website in the show notes. And Maddie, thank you so much. I know you are busy. Thank you so much for making time to chat with me. It was so good to see you. I miss you so much seeing you around.
I miss you too so much, but I mean, thank goodness for social media and being able to keep up with you there.
Yes. And thanks to everyone for listening. I hope you took away some of these gems. Feel free to DM either of us if you have any questions. I'm sure we'd be happy to answer. And we'll talk to you next episode. Bye.